Welcome back. If it's your first time viewing, please enjoy. If you do enjoy, leave a like and consider subscribing. So let's get right into it. Are we witnessing the best NBA ever? Over the last 5, 15 maybe years, we've seen a lot of changes in the NBA that I think have led to us being at the peak of basketball at the moment, and it could definitely continue to go up from here. So I have a few points that I'd like to talk about. We'll start with the smaller points and work our way from there to the bigger, more interesting points. Let's get right into it. Starting off, our average player today is a lot more skilled and a lot more athletic than your average player from the past. For example, almost every rotation player today is able to shoot the three ball, including most centers, as opposed to the early 2000s, maybe even 2010s, maybe even close to 2015 before Steph kind of changed the game. A lot of power forwards and centers would sit dunker spots and maybe the mid-range, and that would clog up the paint, leaving less spacing for a steady offense. And this will kind of lead us into my next point. Our offense today is way more advanced than ever. Thanks to an increase in spacing, this allows teams to run plays as simple yet effective as the pick and roll very freely, with a lot more room to operate. And with the pick and roll, they can either drive, take a mid-range, take a three, or break down the offense off of help defense or off a drive and kick from there. And this kind of allows teams to do multiple steps in order to break down a defense even more, with players switching around, defensive players switching around, as well as the ball swinging from player to player, side to side. This sort of allows teams to break down a defense more than we've seen in the past, because the big men nowadays, they are getting pulled more out to the perimeter, forcing them to be a little uncomfortable, but also taking away that rim protection from their team defense. This spacing also allows teams to run a very effective motion offense, like we've seen the Warriors run for quite a while now. I think having Steph, Clay, and all these shooters on their squad, and a very high IQ player like Draymond, has allowed them to kind of revitalize the game and shift towards this motion offense where the ball moves very freely. Their center stays out of the paint, most plays on screens and whatnot, and that allows easy cuts for Wiggins, Clay, Steph, Gary Payton II, whoever. Because of their good shooting and spacing, that forces defenders to stay attached to shooters and gives opportunity for them in the paint a little more freely. We have about 2 more points to make. These two I think are a little bit bigger. For example, the league now is a lot more unpredictable and competitive than we've seen in a little bit, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. So from about 2016, 2015 maybe to 2018, we saw the same two teams make the finals, the Cavs and the Warriors. We saw a very repetitive league, and I think that's when the league was at a, not an all-time low, but it was a very boring league to say, because we always knew for sure, especially once the Warriors got Kevin Durant, who was making the finals, who was potentially winning the championship. As opposed to today, we have about 3, maybe 4 teams from each conference that we could totally see win the championship. And just like I mentioned, last season, we had two very competitive conferences, with the 7, even 5 to 12 seeds being just 1 to 3 games apart. So it was a very close conference on both sides. Mainly the West was a little more competitive, but the East was definitely competitive as well, a lot more than we've seen in the past years. And I think the addition of the play-in tournament has made things a little more interesting as well, and allowed up to 10 teams the opportunity to make a playoff appearance. Because 10 teams in each conference are definitely capable of making a playoff spot, and now that play-in game adds a little bit of competition just before the playoffs, which could switch things up last minute, which I think is fun. Along with this, we saw some very unexpected playoff runs from the 7 seed Lakers, making it from the play-in to the conference finals, as well as the 8 seed Miami Heat, losing their first play-in game, then from there, winning their second one, upsetting the number 1 seed in the first round, and fighting their way all the way up to the finals. Along with all this, we've had 6 different NBA champions in the last 8 seasons. And if we break it down a little bit more, we have 5 different NBA champions in the last 5 seasons. I think next season we might see a repeat with the Denver Nuggets, or we could totally see the Celtics or the Miami Heat or whoever, the 76ers maybe not though, win their championship and add 6 in 6 different years. It could go anywhere from here. Moving on to my last point, and that is we see a lot of NBA records being made over the last few seasons. I'll talk just about a couple of them, and I'm sure some of you guys can think of some others. But because the players today are a lot more skilled and we have the most efficient offense we've seen ever, we have new records being set every year. For example, this season we saw the most players ever averaging 20 plus points per game. The all-time record was 31. This season, we saw 44 players averaging 20 plus, which is a big jump from the previous record. And we've also seen some historic performances, such as Luka Doncic's 60-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist game, or Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell's 71-point games, which were both very impressive. They added themselves to that 70-point club. And we can't forget Joel Embiid's 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 blocks game. Almost a quadruple double. We've seen some historic performances through the regular season and the playoffs as well. And that's why I believe this is the best NBA ever. Drop your opinions down below. I'm sure some of you may disagree, some of you may agree, but I want to hear what you say. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.